story taken from the book Journeying with the Prophets. It's chapter 13 and it tells the story of Mary and Jesus, the story of Maryam and Prophet Isa. The Mahmoud children have been long awaiting the story of Maryam and baby Isa. The day has finally arrived. The children gathered around Nanny Serena, ready to give their summary of the previous day's story. Sienna insisted to have her turn first. Sienna Sophia is the youngest in the Mahmoud's household. I really like the stories you told yesterday, Nanny. My favorite was Prophet Dawood using his slingshot to kill the giant Jalut and the large army running away, Leah added. And my favorite was when Talut was searching for his mixing donkeys and was chosen by Prophet Shamil to be the king of Israel. And what about you, Kian? Nanny asked the eldest of the Mahmoud's clan. I couldn't stop laughing when the evil king died of a heart attack when they lost the battle against the Philistines, said Kian. Eva quietly said that all the other children had already talked about her favorites, but she remembered that Talut's army only had 30 men. Nanny Serena was indeed very pleased that the children are enjoying and remembering her stories. The story of Maryam started with her old parents, Imran and Hannah. They longed for a child but weren't blessed with any. Hannah was from the descendant of Prophet Dawood, that's Prophet David. Hannah and her husband prayed to Allah, and one day their wish was granted. Hannah was pregnant. She was overjoyed and promised to dedicate her child for the service of Allah. Just before the birth, tragedy struck. Hannah's husband, Imran, died. When Maryam was born, her mother was very surprised because she was expecting a son. She was now facing a difficult situation. She had vowed that her child will serve Allah, but women were not allowed in the mosque without a guardian, and her father had died. The new mother turned to Zachariah for help. He was married to Hannah's sister Elizabeth. The Quran tells us that this family was from the house of Imran. The suggestion was that a guardian will be appointed for Maryam to remain in the temple of Baitul Maqdis. This is now known as Masjid Aqsa. Who was Miriam's guardian at the temple? Kian asked. Nanny Serena answered that question by telling an interesting event. Many holy men wanted to be Maryam's guardian because her father Imran was such a pious, respected person. So a competition was held. They all wrote their names on pens and threw it in the river. They had decided that the one that remained afloat will be selected. Zachariah's pen did not sink. Zachariah was the chosen one. He was selected to take care of the young Mariam. He was very happy because he didn't have any children of his own. When Mariam was old enough, she went to live at Masjid Aqsa, dedicating her life to the services of Allah. Her uncle Zachariah, who was a carpenter, built a separate room for her in the temple. Zachariah visited Mariam every day and taught her about Allah. One day, during one of his visits, he saw out of season fruits in her room. When he inquired where they came from, Mariam said it was from Allah who sent them to her. He was so surprised. Some of the Bani Israel were becoming bad, not following Allah's laws. Zachariah prayed to Allah for a son to guide those people. His wish was fulfilled when a few days later his old wife became pregnant. 6 months after that, a man appeared in front of Mariam. He was an angel. He came to give her some very surprising news. Oh, what was the news? Asked Leah. When Nanny told her that Allah had sent the angel to tell Mariam she will give a birth to a son, Leah was very puzzled. But she's not married and she's a pious girl. How can that be? Inquired Leah. Nanny Serena continued the story by telling the children that Mariam also asked those questions, and the angel reassured her that it was by the will of Allah. Allah can do all things. She reminded them that Prophet Adam and his wife were created without a mother or a father. The angel told her that he will be a prophet and she must name him Isa, and he will speak from the cradle. He will be a prophet for the Bani Israel and will perform many miracles. When it was time for Mariam to give birth, she left Jerusalem and traveled towards the city of Bethlehem. It was a quiet area, so no one will question her as to why she was having a child without a father. Mariam had a normal pregnancy. The time has now come for the birth of the baby. Allah guided her to a safe place. She sat on a trunk of a palm tree. Near to it was a running stream. It was here that she went into labor. Her pains were excruciating. Baby Isa made his entry into the world. After the birth, Mariam was very hungry and thirsty. Allah inspired her to shade the date tree and eat the fruits and drink the water from the running stream. He was a beautiful baby. But now Mariam has this dilemma to face. How will she explain his birth to the Bani Israel? Allah sent an angel to tell her not to worry. Mariam had full faith in Allah and took her baby to face the Bani Israel. The people saw Maryam with her baby and started questioning her. What were they saying to her? Eva wanted to know. Nanny Serena replied by telling the children some of the questions she was asked. What have you done? You are from a good family and your parents were pious. How could you have a baby without a husband? As Allah had directed her not to speak, she just pointed to her baby. Then a miracle happened. The newborn baby began speaking. He said that he was a servant of Allah and a prophet. He told them that Allah had sent him to guide the Bani Israel to the right path. The people were dumbfounded listening to the words of this newborn baby. Some were convinced there and then that Maryam was indeed a very pious girl and the baby was a miracle from Allah. But even after witnessing such a miracle, there were others who believed that it was a trick that the baby spoke. As Prophet Isa grew, his unique qualities and prophecies began to increase. When Prophet Isa was 12 years old, something interesting happened. Him and his mother were passing by a temple. There were many men entering the temple. The prophet decided to wander in, leading his mother outside. He found himself in a room full of people listening to a lecture given by a priest. The prophet was very brave and stood up and started questioning him. The priest did not know the answers, and Prophet Isa continued asking questions. Yet no one knew the answers. Prophet Isa spent a long time in the temple, and his mother went home with the belief that her son must have returned home. When Maryam realized that the young prophet was not at home, she quickly ran back to the city to look for him. She found him in the temple, sitting amongst the priests, still debating. As the prophet grew older, he began to study the Torah and follow the rules of the book strictly. Nanny reminded the children that Allah gave Prophet Musa the Torah. His knowledge took him to the realization how the Bani Israel had misinterpreted and abused the words of Allah for their own benefit. Prophet Isa's mission was to confirm the Torah and to make lawful things that were previously unlawful, and to reaffirm the belief in one God. Those priests were choosing their own laws, making things lawful and unlawful as they wished. They had violated the Sabbath laws. They ruled that the sick must not seek medical attention on the Sabbath day. They should not be eating or drinking, and people must not even plait their hairs. They made up so much different rules that contradicted the Torah. Prophet Isa broke all rules when he fed the hungry people, made fires for the elderly to keep themselves warm, tend to the sick. Prophet Isa was certainly not popular with the so-called high priests in Israel. The prophet had profound knowledge of the Torah and was living by all its rules. Allah also blessed the prophet with signs and miracles. Prophet Isa was provided with all the qualities from the one true God to guide and influence the Bani Israel. One day, Prophet Isa visited the temple and found more than 20,000 priests. They all earned a living from the temple. There were more priests than visitors. They charged the visitors lots of money to visit the temple. If the poor people had no money, they will be turned away. This day, the prophet saw a huge flock of sheep waiting to be sold to the visitors for sacrifice. If the people want to bring their own animal to make the sacrifice, the priest will not allow it. It was indeed not a particularly good time for the poor people. It seemed, rather than worshipping Allah, the priests were worshipping money. The temple, rather than a place of worship, was more of a market and trading place. The Bani Israel were indeed corrupted. The temple was full of offerings, whilst thousands living on the outside were starving. Nanny Serena noticed that Kian was in such a deep concentration. Nanny asked him to share his thoughts. I was wondering what happened to the son of that pious man Zachariah. He would be an adult by now, queried Nanny's oldest grandchild. Wow, Kian, thank you for listening so intently, said Nanny Serena. Nanny informed the children that the Prophet Zachariah's wife Elizabeth gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. The Prophet was 90 years old when his son was born. His name was Yahya, John in English. Yahya was no ordinary son. Allah granted him knowledge and wisdom. He was full of sympathy and compassion. He had full knowledge of the Torah and followed all the rules of Allah. He was righteous and free from sin. Allah blessed Yahya with prophethood. He guided the people to follow the commands of Allah and refrain from committing sins. Him and his cousin Prophet Isa lived in Israel at the same time, calling people to Islam. One night, both Prophet Yahya and his father, Prophet Zachariah, were killed by the rulers of the kingdom. Prophet Isa began to call to the people of Israel. Prophet Isa's struggle began. He began to spread the word of Allah and reveal to the people that he was a messenger from Allah. When the Prophet began calling his people to Allah's way, they asked him for miracles. By the permission of Allah, he performed many miracles. He made a figure of a bird from clay and breathed life into it. At the time of Prophet Isa, the people were very advanced in the medical field, but even so, they had not found the cure for blindness. Prophet Isa was given the miracle of restoring sight to the blind was also given the miracle of curing leprosy. The Bani Israel continued asking for more miracles. At one time, they took the prophet to the graveyard and asked him to bring a man back from the dead. This he did. Prophet Isa told the people that all the miracles were done by the will of Allah. Even after these miracles, Bani Israel were still skeptical. On another occasion, the prophet was passing by a graveyard when he noticed a woman crying over a grave. He asked her who had been buried there. The woman stated it was her daughter and swore she would not leave her because of her love for her. In her grief, she wished to die with her daughter, or her daughter be brought back to life. Prophet Isa proposed to her that if he brought her daughter back to life, would the woman then believe in his message? The woman agreed, and the prophet proceeded to command 3 times that the dead girl rise from her grave. She was then brought out of her grave. Prophet Isa questioned the girl as to why it had taken so long for her to rise from her grave. She said that once she had the first calling, Allah recreated her physical form. At his second command, an angel appeared over her head. Finally, her soul returned to her. As her soul returned to her body, the girl's hair turned to white from the horror that it might be the day of judgment. The girl was appalled at the idea of experiencing the agony of death again and asked the prophet to return her to her grave. At this point, the mother is silent and astonished at what she saw. The prophet made dua to Allah to return the girl to her grave and to ease her plight. His prayer was granted. Yet they wanted to see more miracles. They continued to bring the sick, blind, and the infirmed. With Allah's permission, he was able to cure all of them. As the prophet continued to call the Bani Israel to follow the guidance of the Torah, the high priests were becoming more incensed. One day, they brought a woman and accused her of adultery in front of everyone. The law of the Torah stated that those who commit adultery must be stoned. They called Prophet Isa because they knew he would oppose the stoning. In this way, they thought, they will demonstrate that he is going against the law of the Torah. The prophet looked at the priests and was fully aware of all their evil deeds. He knew that they wanted him to go against the laws of Prophet Musa. Prophet Isa smiled. He addressed everyone, telling them that whosoever is sinless can stone the woman. As they were all sinners, no one dared to stone her. That day, an important lesson was learned. Only Allah can judge. As the prophet was walking away, he realized that he was being followed. It was the accused woman following him. He questioned her without receiving any reply. Instead, she produced a bottle of oil from her robe and mixed with her tears, she anointed the feet of the prophet. She then dried them with her hair. The prophet was very touched by her actions and prayed to Allah to forgive the woman's sins. He continued to pray to Allah to show mercy and guide the people. Prophet Isa had a group of followers, and they were called his disciples. Once he told them that he goes to bed with nothing and he wakes up with nothing, and yet he has more than everyone. One day, Prophet Isa was walking and saw a blind and crippled man. He stopped to have a conversation with him. The man said to him that although he's blind and crippled, Allah has protected him from the greatest trial, which is disbelief. The Prophet touched the man on his shoulder, and his disease was cured and made his face shine with beauty. The old man became one of his disciples. The food spread from the sky. A new book was revealed from Allah to Prophet Isa. These revelations came to the Prophet through angel Jibreel, who is called Ruh al-Quds, the Holy Spirit in the Quran. All the revelations to the prophets came through angel Jibreel. Christians of today regard the Holy Spirit to be God, or rather they hold that the Holy Spirit is one of three persons in the one God, whereas Muslims believe that the Holy Spirit is angel Jibreel. One day, Prophet Isa asked his supporters to fast for 30 days. They agreed and began their fast. On the completion of the fast, they followed the Prophet to the desert. There were always many people who followed the Prophet. Some were sick people hoping to be cured by the Prophet. But there were also a group of disbelievers who followed the Prophet to mock and jeered at him. They had also fasted and asked the Prophet to send something special from the sky to break their fast. There were thousands of people, and they wanted the spread to be enough for the entire gathering. They saw this as an impossible task for the Prophet and was convinced that he will not be able to deliver. But they were wrong. Prophet Isa went in a quiet corner and prayed to Allah. His prayers were answered. There was a table spread of food that descended from the sky. It was covered with a cloth. The Prophet removed the cloth and saw the most mouth-watering food. The people gasped in amazement. There were 7 big fish, 7 loaves of bread, 7 bottles of vinegar, honey, and an abundance of fruits. The beautiful aroma of the food filled the air. The people had never smelt anything so wonderful. The Prophet asked the disbelievers to eat first, as they were the ones who asked for the food. But they refused and stated they will not touch the food until the Prophet and his followers ate. All the sick and infirm people ate. Allah provided the people with another miracle. The sick people got cured. The news of this miracle spread fast, and thousands of people from the city came for this feast, and the food never ran out. This itself was another miracle. After 40 days, Allah directed the Prophet that only the poor must be allowed to eat from the feast. But this did not happen. The rich pretended to be poor and kept on feasting. The poor was asked not to take away any of the food to be saved for the next day. They did not listen either, so everyone disobeyed the Prophet's commands. Wow, they all disobeyed the Prophet's orders. Did Allah take the food away? Asked Sienna. Sienna was right. The table spread was lifted back to the sky where it came from. The miracle remained in the people's minds for years, and they were continued conversation about this miracle from Allah. Alas, the priests wanted to kill Prophet Isa. They were really truly exposed for their evil deeds. Prophet Isa was sitting in his house with 12 of his disciples. He addressed them and said one among them had betrayed him. It was Judas who was the betrayer. He consulted with the head priest and asked what reward will be given to him if he delivered the prophet to him. He was promised 30 pieces of shekels. That was a lot of money in those days. When this question was asked, he was so ashamed that he left the room. Prophet Isa asked for one of his disciples to take his place as the soldiers were coming to arrest him. He told that person will be his companion in paradise. He asked that question 3 times, and the same young man volunteered. Allah changed his appearance to look like Prophet Isa. Allah then raised Prophet Isa from a window from the corner of his house and raised him to the heaven. When the soldiers arrived, they took that young man instead and crucified him. The disbelievers rejoiced. They believed that they had killed Prophet Isa, son of Maryam. But the Prophet is very much alive today and living in the second heaven. Prophet Isa will return to earth before the day of judgment. Before you go, please click on the subscribe button so you don't have to miss any of the videos.